There might have been many such incidents, but one recent thing came up, and I'm trying to see if I can correlate with this Cobra effect.
Okay.
So recently, we've been maintaining this application for years, right? And it has been stable, and all our rollouts were perfect and stable without any issues. But recently, one minor issue came up in a very remote, area of usage. When they actually there was a change for which we have to make a bunch of stored procedure changes, and they have been promoted to QA and production, and it has gone through all possible testing, and then it has gone hit production. And in one remote scenario, particularly during tax harvesting season, it's a seasonal activity. It doesn't happen always. So one stored procedure that we pushed in got picked up in that specific scenario, and there has been some performance issues related to that proc call. So that time, the business users were not able to successfully complete their tax harvesting activities. So it has ended up in a big chaos that day. So after that, we were able to figure out a solution. The simple solution was a rollback of that stored procedure.
Okay.
So that the business was ready to sacrifice the new feature corresponding to whatever functionality they already wanted to complete, right? So we were able to address it immediately. That wasn't a major issue, but process-wise, they wanted to introduce some new uh, all-catcher kind of scenario, so that these kind of things won't go to production again.
Okay.
So they started introducing all new categories, which were considered to be optional earlier. They have mandated now, like a PE testing, DBA review, and many we are not able to deliver, the solutions at the same rate whatever we have delivering earlier. Okay, so the original issue was, that minor problem which we were able to address. But now, the Cobra farm, if you want to say, is the new process, I would say,
Yeah.
which is causing all these things. So instead of addressing with some manageable process changes, they have introduced a whole lot of things, because they don't really understand the management, may not be really aware of the original,
Issue.
gravity of the issue. And, maybe they got panic and they wanted to address it in a, full-fledged manner. They wanted to establish to the business stating that we have taken care of all these steps, but actually they have gone the other way around.
Interesting. So let's say there's this big team. Within that big team, there is one small squad. That squad implemented one feature, and now they put a process for the entire team. One
Exactly.
feature which was slow, now the entire team has got slowed down because of this.
Exactly. So something like that. So cost wise, I'm not able to exactly quantify all these, but definitely there is an impact for the business for sure.
Time is a big cost. Time is
Yeah,
a big
Exactly.
cost.
time is a
Exactly.
big cost, correct. And I think this kind of creates another problem, right? Like, let's say, when you have this time pressure, people now try to shortcut things, right?
Exactly.
Write lesser code or try to do lesser checks, kind of a thing, the features. When there's more pressure, then you have a chance of making even more mistakes. I think then it gets compounded. Now the tendency will be, let's make this checks even more stricter.
Exactly. So that, see, people, if see, it is a very big application, and if everyone is aware of what exactly going on the field, then they will be able to make the right judgment. Okay. So, but people at the management level, they keep changing, as and when any new organizational change happens, people at that level keep changing. And since they don't really know the complete details, they really feel insecure. If any such small things comes up, they feel insecure, and they want to patch it up with process instead of understanding the application much more in order to make proper decisions.
So Nishanth has given. Let me read out what he has said. So around a year back, they were building an offline booking file processing system. So the booking file operating system means tour operator creates booking in their platform and they kind of send it as files to sync up with the booking details in the core reservation. And looks like they had anticipated many files per day, and we went live with a moderate heap size. That is like, let's say X number of files will get processed. Soon after going live, they started facing memory issues. As a solution, we kept on increasing the heap size upon each issue incident. So basically, each time they came, they kept on increasing the heap size. Finally, what happened is the system's time processing and the response itself started getting affected by that. Okay, so he's thinking that that is a good case of a Cobra effect. Rather than finding the actual root cause of the memory utilization, we simply applied memory upgrade as a solution. Later on, detail analysis was due to a specific cache configuration, which could have been solved without doing any RAM upgrade. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I think, Nishanth, that's a very good example of another thing where that Cobra effect happens. It is like basically why that problems becomes even more bigger is when the heap size is getting increased. We kind of tend to think that we have solved the problem, right? And also the other complications that it's more non-technical in nature. You have upgraded the hardware and it is already working. Supposedly we added a little more functionality to it that has gone in. Now the human dynamics comes in. Now the people who have justified the investment, right, cannot go back and then say, because of the software problem, I spent $30,000 on upgrading the memory. We know how memory is costly on the servers. So then it gets even more trickier. Whereas it turns out, as you were telling, was interesting thing was, let's say the bottom of the iceberg was a caching of an issue problem. So in some cases, it's kind of easy to get the.
So I have, this is sort of in relation to what Ram just mentioned around process, right? So this is a very typical scenario where people find out that if we add this layer of process on top of something, it will magically improve the situation. And I'll give you a very common example, which all of you must face, which is change management. Right. So this is you want to change something. The original purpose of change management was that you want to reduce the risk, right? The whole purpose is to reduce the risk, and to reduce the risk now, and without even thinking about whether people understand the risk or there is every week there is a cab. You take your proposal to the cab and they ask some random questions. The change advisory board, right? Change advisory board, common to most organizations. In large organizations, they will apply this thing, right? So small organization, they may not have a very stringent process, but in larger the organization, the more, I would say, stupid the process becomes, and the most of the people, this is, you can probably relate to it, the people sitting on this change advisory board have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. They have absolutely no idea why you want to make this change or why it is relevant to your application, or they have no absolute knowledge. All they are depending on is how confident you are in expressing what you are going to say. Oh, I have done this thing 100 times before, not a big deal, just approve the change, we'll do it. So where is the risk management? Right, so the whole this has become a bureaucracy rather than being a risk management process. It has become a bureaucracy that as long as I have gone to the cab, my CYA is covered, right? So my ass is covered. There is no cab has approved it, so they must have looked at everything. But the fact is, they don't know anything. So and people should that is a big Cobra effect which is still going on. People believe that all this change management is protecting them. It is not protecting them. All it is doing it is adding a layer of bureaucracy, where maybe in that point of time people may ask some right questions. Say, do you have a backup of this? That is one good question somebody can ask. Oh, if this goes wrong, can you go back? Answer is yes. Okay, doesn't matter what you do. If I just tell you that I will always roll back, why do you need to approve this change, right? So if I have a, which is now another process which now is the which all of you will relate to, is the what we discussed last time was around Agile, right? So now since we have Agile, there is no need for architecture. Why do we need architecture, right? We will just make a user story and architecture will just magically drop out of it, right? So so that is another Cobra effect which is happening. People just believe that all the good things which were required in the past, the Agile has totally eliminated the need for those things. So I believe this Cobra effect is still happening. People don't realize it. They see it daily. And I talk about it daily to all customers, and because I talk about their change management and all these things, once I tell them, is you don't need this change management anymore, and that is the biggest shock for them. Is how can we live without change management? We have built this entire bureaucracy around change management. What will these people do? So you have to find some better productive method for them to reduce the risk, rather than wasting their time in these advisory board meetings, which have net result is very minimal. So that is my.
That's actually pretty interesting, right? You are actually telling about not even it is like two practices or two ways of thinking.
Yes.
Two ways of thinking which is causing the Cobra effect. One is, oh, you know what? I have a change management board, so we are good.
Yes.
Correct. And then so you kind of tend to take things casually, not really thinking through it or deeply analyzing it, because anyway, if there is a problem, it is something like, you know what, let us make all criminals so that the crime will never get exposed.
Exactly.
So
everybody is a participant.
Everybody is a partner, right? Yeah, correct. So that and the Agile part, right? Because we are going to do quickly, we need not look at it. And then essentially, I guess Venkat being in a startup can kind of talks about the first example where that Cobra effect is getting accelerated so fast because we don't have these camouflages there. I think in a startup or in a very small team, these things come out very quickly.
Right.
In large organizations, it takes a very long amount of time before it comes up, or even if it comes up, the complexity is so much that another complexity adds to the complexity and camouflages even further.
Let's look at the reverse of this thing. What is the good effect we can get out of the Cobra thing, right? So, I know we are saying Cobra effect is the bad thing. Let us reverse the question. What is the good thing about Cobra effect? How does Cobra effect actually help you, rather than how does it actually help you? Can you think of something? How does it actually help you?
That's a good question.
I'm sure there is a positive side of this Cobra effect, right?
I think, yeah. So that's actually true. For example, I guess lot of great inventions, right, which we call as serendipity or luck, were actually Cobra effects in their own way. For example, I think let's take society. I can think of two things which immediately comes. Fleming discovering vaccine, right? So he had actually left that bowl, petri dish, and then something formed on it, and from that, so effectively that small thing had a completely different effect on it. We came up with what were viruses, germs, and the entire thing started after that. And if you take from an Indian perspective, some guy got pushed off the train because he had a colored skin. Okay. That had a Cobra effect called an independence moment many years later. So I guess those are also probably, now that you're asking it, that's example a good effect of Cobra farming, right? The guy pushing there would not have realized that, yeah, he didn't want him to sit in the train, but effectively it became a huge problem later.
I think Cobra Effect, the way you define it, I think the way to look at Cobra Effect would be that it highlights problems in the system.
Mm.
Because if the Cobra Effect is very small or it is very slow, you will not notice it. If the Cobra Effect is large and immediate, you will solve problems. You will try to solve it. You try to fend off the Cobra at least, right? So, so, so I think that might be the good effect of coming out of Cobra Effect.